United States, what makes it tick, and what we want to do with it. Let's start with you and what you want. What does anybody want? Do you think you're different from other people? Millions have worshipped the strong man, the leader. Millions let somebody else decide what they want. They worked, fought, died for government by strong men, by fear, by force.
Und damit unser deutscher Volk und Vaterland.
Yeah, the dictator. No, not everybody agrees. Over here, we don't like dictators. We don't worship the strong man. We worship as we please. Our government represents us, the people. Our government is our servant, not our master. We can work, we can fight too. That government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. That's what Lincoln said. Not that everybody agreed even then. Lincoln was shot, remember? Any government has a lot of power, but keep in mind that the power can come from the top down or from the bottom up. And it makes a lot of difference to you, what you can do and what you can't do, where and how you live and work. Let's start from there, where we live and work, what we have in the United States. 1 worker out of 5 lives close to the land on our 6 million farms and ranches. Look them over, big ones, little ones, all kinds. 4 workers out of 5 work away from the land in almost 4 million other places. Big plants, small plants, peanut stands, offices. Altogether, that makes about 10 million places where we can work and make a living. How we work and how we live makes all the difference in what we have in the United States. But how did we get what we have? Suppose just for a moment that we didn't have our 6 million farms and ranches. Let's get rid of them. All of them. Okay? No more farms or ranches. Now, let's get rid of industry too. Then we won't have to worry about that. Fine. No more industry, no more places to work. While we're at it, let's go all the way. Let's wipe out all cities, towns, homes, everything. Now what? Well, now we're starting the hard way, close to old Mother Nature. You and everybody else on Earth have some things in common. You want to stay alive. To stay alive, you have to have food. You have to have some shelter against the elements. You want to be as comfortable as you can. So let's start with this common problem and see what it takes.
What are we going to do?
Better find somewhere to go. Going to be a storm any minute. Give me the baby. Come on.
Well, it's better than nothing, I guess. Oh, take it easy, honey.
It's so cold. Could you build a fire, Tom?
Sure. Gee, I don't seem to have any matches. Don't worry, we'll work out something. Looks like this might blow over. You stay here. I'll go out and see what I can find.
Don't go far, Tom. There, darling. I know you're hungry.
How long do you think she can feed that baby unless she gets some food herself? Not long. How long could you stay alive dumped into a real wilderness? Most people would starve to death. And yet, it's funny, isn't it? It's all there. Sun, air, soil, water, minerals, metals. It's all right there. But how to get at it? Let's say you're lucky to start with. You find some water so you won't die of thirst.
No, but I need food.
Food, shelter, and comfort.
Food, yeah. I'm all right on that other stuff.
You are now. But where are you going to get another shirt when that one wears out?
Well, I don't know. But I'm not going to worry about that now.
When the snow starts to fly, you'll worry about it?
Plenty. I'm going to have a look around.
Tom has what any man has to work with, his brains and his muscles. So he goes to work with what he has. Put yourself in his place. Let's say you're lucky. You find some roots you can eat. You find some berries. A couple of days go by and you're still alive, but it's a full-time job. Let's say you're very lucky. You find some fish just when they're spawning. They're helpless. Now, this probably wouldn't happen to you, but let's make it easy. Let's say you get a couple of fish the way a bear does.
Man, look what I got.
Oh,
I just flipped them out.
I'm so hungry I could almost eat them raw.
I don't know. Want to try?
I can't. I can't.
Gee, if we just had a knife. Hey, isn't that smoke?
Oh, Tom.
Sure it's smoke. There must be somebody over there. Wait here, I'll go and see.
Where'd you come from?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
You got a fire. I wanted a fire, but I didn't have any matches. How'd you do it?
It took me long enough to get going. I've been trying to do this ever since I found myself here. I started like this. See? Then I took my shoelace and did it this way.
Gee, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that knife. Where'd you get it?
I found the antler. I made it by rubbing it against the rocks.
Say, how about letting me use it?
Wait a minute. What do you want it for? You got some food?
My wife and baby are just down the valley. We've been living on roots and things, but I got a couple fish.
You have? How big?
Oh, about like that. Nice ones.
Man, I'm so hungry I can hardly stand it. I've been working against time. I got a weak stomach and I figured I can't eat stuff raw. Look, let me buy one of those fish.
What with?
What do you think? Oh, well, I guess I haven't got any money.
What would I do with money around here?
Well, nothing, I guess. Look, let's put it this way. You give me a fish, I'll let you use my knife and cook on my fire. How's that?
Wait a minute. Maybe I'll never find another fish.
Listen, I gotta get something to eat. I'm so hungry, I'm sick, I've been working. Where are they? Back with your wife?
Don't get any idea.
I offered you a fair swap.
Give me that knife.
I'll give it to you right in the belly.
Each other. What's come over you, Tom? Grown men acting like savage.
Tom's fighting for his life. So is the other man. Let's go back and see what this is all about. If you were thrown into a wilderness without a match or a knife or any tool, you'd be right smack up against nature. You'd be just the same, the same muscles, the same brains, and without tools, you might stay alive for a while. You might find some kind of shelter. You'd have to have food and shelter, and you'd want some comforts. To improve your situation, you'd have to take time out to make some tools. You can't be looking for food and make a knife at the same time. It takes work and time to get fire or any other tool. Incidentally, from now on, when we talk about tools, we mean anything that helps you get more food or shelter or comforts and helps you get them more easily. Getting food or shelter is a matter of life and death. And once you get something, and somebody else has something, you come up against the idea of swapping, of barter.
Why can't we swap? One fish for the use of my knife and my fire.
Well, what's wrong with that?
I'd like to keep both fish. I need that knife and the fire. Okay, it's a deal.
Life depends on food. And to fill your stomach, to put a shirt on your back or some kind of a roof over your head, there are only 3 things to work with: natural resources, your human energy, and tools. That's true anywhere, any place, anytime. Let's bring this out in another way. Everything in nature was here long ago. All the coal, the iron, the forests, the oil, the water, the land. Why didn't the Indians do more with it? The Indians had to have food, shelter, comforts. Didn't they raise better food, build better homes? Why didn't the Indians do more with all this? They had some tools. They knew how to make fire. They used fire to clear land. When the growth was burnt off, the Indian women planted corn like this, with a clam shell and a hoe made from the shoulder blade of a deer. Yes, they had tools, Stone Age tools, but they never improved their tools. And as a result, they couldn't improve their production of food, shelter, and comforts. Compare this with the pioneer farmers. Crude as the early wooden plows were, they worked better than animal bones or clamshells. Yes, they had tools, but the important thing is they improved their tools. They shod them with iron, and now we make them from steel. Powerful tractors pull them down the fields. If this farmer had lived when the country was young, it would have taken 9 farmers like him to free 1 man from the land. With a better use of brains and muscles, better use of nature, and above all, with more and better tools, the modern farmer can free 15 or 20 men from the land. That's a pretty good example of what we have. Something happened in this country to produce a titanic upsurge in human energy and spirit, to produce more and better tools, to produce more and better food, shelter, and comforts. What was it? What helped us get what we have? Let's start at the beginning. The founders of the country didn't have tractors or television sets or automobiles, but they did have a mighty faith in God and a big revolutionary idea about people. They thought governments ought to be the servant, not the master of ordinary people like you and me. Have you ever read the Declaration of Independence? Men risked their lives for the principle that in this country, at least, we the people take our rights from God and set up a government to preserve and protect our individual rights. Think that over. The signers of the Declaration of Independence declared their belief that we are endowed by our Creator with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which nobody, no person, no group, no political party, not even our government can take away from us. This farmer has certain unalienable rights, responsibilities, and obligations, which are his birthright under the law. This worker has the same rights, responsibilities, and obligations, which are his birthright under the law. These workers can challenge their government, which is ordered to protect their rights. And these aren't idle words. On July 4th, 1776, we declared our independence. In 1788, we ratified our Constitution. And to this day, every officer, law, and division of American government has existed solely for the purpose of protecting our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When you read the Constitution of the United States, notice it starts off with, "We, the people," and it's the oldest instrument of government in continuous use. Our government is divided into two parts, state and federal, and each part is subdivided into legislative, executive, and judiciary. Each branch independent. This was not done for efficiency. It was done deliberately to keep anybody or anything from taking away our individual freedom. Now, let's look at the map. The federal government was to handle the national problems. The united but individual states were to handle their own problems, just as each county, city, town, and village was to handle its local problems. Problems like fire protection, police protection, protection of the streets and highways, protection and development of citizenship through public education. Things like this are the concern of state and local government. We, the people, have given our federal, state, and local governments a limited power, but we have ordered them, remember, to use that power to protect our individual freedoms. Our rights are only limited when it's for the public good. Like when you're driving along a public street. Traffic changes. You stop. You don't even think about it. But you stopped because we gave government, represented by the police officer, the right to make a stop to let the other people go through. Then, when you get the signal, it's your turn to go ahead. Limitations of our rights? Sure. But for the public good. And that's the way our country has gone ahead. Just what does liberty or individual freedom mean to you? Freedom to do what? There's New York. Just what freedoms do the people down there have? And what difference does it make? How about San Francisco? Chicago. Is life in Chicago any different from life in Moscow, Shanghai, Paris, or any other city? Is this any different from a town of the same size in some other part of the world? There's a great difference, and it starts with the great gift of freedom. Here's a farm. 2 out of 3 farms like this are run by their owners. In other words, here's what we mean by freedom. Farmers are free to save, free to invest their savings, to buy and own their own farm, their own tools, their own stock, free to produce, to make a profit or a loss. It takes time, takes work, takes management, takes saving, takes careful buying and selling. It took this farmer 20 years to build up this herd, but it was worth the effort. Nobody can fool this man about what it means to own your own farm or to build your own herd. He knows where his tools came from and what a difference they make. He started out milking by hand. Now he does it this way and doesn't have to work so hard. And he produces more and better milk and cream. He gets more out of it, and so do all the rest of us. Don't sell freedom short. Freedom to work, to grow things, to make things. Freedom to buy and sell. Freedom to save and invest. We have these great freedoms in this country. You have them. Today, as you may know, we live on about 1/16 of the land area of the world. For every square mile we have, others have 15. For every worker we have, others have about 15. As far as nature and manpower go, the odds against us are about 15 to 1. Let's get this straight. All around the world, men want the same things: food, shelter, and comforts. And naturally, selfishly want all they can get. You do. I do. Everybody has this in common. All of us must use what we can find in nature, our own manpower, and the tremendously productive power of tools. Yet in our 10 million workplaces, with odds of 15 to 1 against us, we have half the productive power on Earth. That didn't just happen. There's a good reason why we have the best workers, the tools on Earth, why we're about 8 to 1 better off than the rest of the whole world. How do you think this came to be? What makes us tick? Let's talk about how we got what we have in these United States and what it means.
Tom, what do you want for breakfast?
What'd you say?
What do you want for breakfast?
I don't care.
Do you want it hot or cold?
I can't hear you.
Never mind. Why can't he make up his mind? Oh, well.
While she gets Tom's breakfast, let's take a closer look at that pan. The iron ore for that pan came from the Mesabi Range. So let's start there and see what happened. Maybe it'll give us an idea of just what it is we have. Nature put the iron ore there, but it wasn't worth anything until men came along. Men with tools. These are the best workmen and the best tools on Earth. As you look at what it takes to make one steel pan, think about why these men are so much better, why their tools are so much better. You can't make a pan only with iron ore. You need coal. You need other raw materials. Limestone must be quarried. It takes a lot of know-how to make iron and steel. Coal must be reduced to coke before it can be used. You need fluorspar, manganese, scrap iron, scrap steel. It takes all of this and more just to produce the basic steel. This is what men can do if you give them a chance. Give them economic freedom. Economic freedom in this country means that you and everybody else is free to work, to make things, to produce. That's one part of it. You're free to buy and sell, to make a profit or a loss. That's the second part. And you're free to save and to invest in more and better tools. That's the third part. And it all adds up to the great gift of economic freedom. Keep it in mind as you watch these men and their tools. Come a long way from nature, but those sheets still have to be shipped somewhere before you can manufacture the pan. Let's see what happens next. Now the pan is about ready to be offered for sale. A lot of labor is already invested in that pan, but you can't see the men who made it or all the tools they used. You can't see the thousands and thousands of people whose savings are invested in those tools. You can't see a thing like freedom either, but it's there. The great gift of freedom. Freedom to work, to make things, to produce. Freedom to buy and sell, to bargain freely, to exchange what we have for what we want. Freedom to save and to invest in the tools that multiply our productive power. He didn't have to display that pan or try to sell it, but he's free to try. Just as Midge didn't have to come into this store. She was free to make her own private individual choice. Free to be ruthless in her search for more and better goods and services at lower prices. But she decided to come into this particular store to look for a pan. That isn't the only pan. She has a choice of iron, steel, copper bottoms, aluminum, but she selected this particular one. Now, here's what really happens. At the time she buys this pan, she has hired all the workers and all the tools clear back to the mine. What she is able and willing to pay for that pan has to pay all the costs all the way back to nature, including the cost of something else you can't see. The cost of government. And the cost of government, remember, is paid by all the direct and indirect taxes you pay. Well, now we know something about where the pan came from. How about the eggs? Well, let's see. Nature supplied the land, but men made it produce the feed for those chickens. You can go in the egg business if you want to. That's what economic freedom means. Tom bought the eggs, he employed all the tools, all the workers, all the way back to the farm. Tom had to work with tools to earn enough to buy that pan. He had to work with tools to earn enough to buy the eggs. He used money as the transfer agent. Now, you can't eat money or fry eggs in it, but it's important. And it's easy to be fooled about money How about it, Tom? What can you do with your take-home pay?
Give it to Midge. If I didn't, she'd bat my ears down.
And I would, too.
Well, that's all right. And let's look into what money is and what it does. Take Tom. He works near the end of an assembly line and gets paid in dollars and cents for work with tools and with materials supplied to him. In other words, one way to earn money is through work using your brains and muscles, your skills, your know-how, for so many dollars and cents. Money has no fixed value. It has no value except at the moment you buy something with it. For example, you've seen the price of eggs jump around. Sometimes half a dollar will buy a dozen eggs, sometimes more than a dozen, sometimes less. In other words, your take-home pay is worth what you can buy with it when you buy it. And what you pay for anything, remember, has to cover all the costs of producing it, transporting it, and selling it, plus taxes which must be paid to operate the federal, state, and local governments.
Yeah, but I didn't have to buy these eggs. If they get too high, we don't eat eggs.
That's your privilege, so long as you live in a free country. You didn't have to buy this house either.
That was my idea.
It means something to own your own home. Not that I own it yet.
Nobody told you you had to buy it, or that you couldn't buy it either.
We figure that every dollar we put into this house is just like saving a dollar.
The house is real, but the dollar value, and don't forget this, is what somebody will pay you for it when you want to sell it or rent it.
We don't want to rent it.
Yes, but it's nice to know you could if you had to.
That's the second way you can get paid.
How do you mean?
There are two ways to earn money. You can be paid for work, any kind of work that produces goods or services, or you can be paid for the use of something you saved and bought, something you own, private property. To get the tools and the materials you work with, the conveyor belts and all the rest of what it takes to build an assembly line, millions of people like you saved and invested their savings in stocks and bonds. And it was their savings that made these tools possible. This was the money that bought the land, built the buildings, and provided all the facilities, power, running water, and thousands of other things that people ordinarily don't think about. All of these things are tools, and tools always come from the investment of savings. Let's put it this way. If you rented a room in your house, or the whole house, would you expect to be paid for it?
Yeah, sure, why not?
If you saved and invested some money in your company, would you expect to be paid?
Oh, sure. Only I don't have that kind of money.
You've got a life insurance policy, haven't you?
Yeah?
Savings account in the bank?
Yes, a little one.
That's not like buying stock.
Well, what do you think the insurance company or the bank, for instance, does with money?
Use it. Invest it, I guess.
That's right. Money is a medium of exchange, a transfer agent. They take your money and buy an interest in private property, the tools you work with, so that every dollar you save goes freely to work. The fact that most people in this country have life insurance, a bank account, stocks, or bonds, means that practically all of us have invested in the tools that produce the goods and services and comforts our lives depend on. That's how we get our tools. That's what happens with economic freedom. The farmers work close to nature, and most of them supply the manpower too, both management and labor. They know where their tools come from and what it takes to maintain them, to replace them with more and better tools. What we have in this country is so good and so successful that too many of us just take it for granted. What we have started with the official purpose of our limited government, and it grew because of our hard-won gift of freedom. Real individual freedom protected by law and the secret ballot. The best workmen and the best tools on earth. And the most democratic way of getting more and better tools. Not through forced savings and forced labor. We're free to save and to invest in productive property, in the tools that multiply our total production of goods and services. 10 million workplaces where we're free to work, to make things, to produce, free to buy or sell, to make a profit or a loss. free to try out new ideas, new products, new methods, free to get more and still better tools which multiply our total production, shorten our work hours, and keep lifting our standard of living. We have plenty of problems, but with all the things we don't do, with all our mistakes, we do have political and economic freedom, and we're far better off than the rest of the world. That's what we have, and it's worth talking about. Let's talk about just exactly what we have in these United States and what it means to you. Now that we have seen what we have in the United States, let's talk about how to lose it. Just what would have to change to be sure to lose what we have. Suppose this is the night before a national election. Suppose you sat in this room and saw and heard this.
Let me sum it up this way. You are going to vote tomorrow in an election which will do one of two things. Keep our limited government with its constitutional freedoms, rights, and responsibilities, or change them for unlimited government and a planned economy.
We've already amended the Constitution dozens of times. Let's throw it away for a master plan run by a master state.
Would you care to reply to that?
I certainly would. At this time, there are some 10 million workplaces in the United States where we're free to make 10 million plans. We're free to try any new idea, new product, new service, a new anything. But we're all human beings, all be right. But we have free choice. We're free to try to make a profit, to just get by, or to fail. Some of us do fail every day, but enough of us succeeds every generation. We double our production of goods and services. Under a master plan, only be one plan. With just one plan, there wouldn't be any room for a mistake. If anything went wrong with a master plan, the result would be a national disaster. And every man, woman, and child would suffer for it.
Wait a minute. We know all we need to know about how to produce things. What we don't seem to know anything about is distribution. We haven't solved such things as full employment, real security, from each according to his ability and to each according to his need.
Sure, that sounds good. But how are you going to do it?
We're already on our way. We've partly socialized incomes. We're going ahead and socialize property, too. Let the people own the means of production, transportation, and communication. Let the people have full employment and full security.
But what price freedom? You talk about full security, full employment. Why, you can have that in a penitentiary. I'm here tonight because I believe in the right of an individual to be able to choose the kind of job he wants, with the company he wants to work for, in the part of the country he wants to live in. Yes, sir, freedom of choice right down to the brand of cigarettes he smokes or doesn't smoke. Government can't control everything without controlling me, what I can say and what I can't say. And I mean police control that tells me where I'll work, where I'll live, and all the rest of it.
Just words. The people know what they want. Vote against the old, ruthless, sick American economy with its private property and its so-called free competitive enterprise. Vote for the master state with the master plan.
Our time is almost up, but tomorrow you'll be able to vote to keep what we have, or to change for a total economy where everything will be run according to a master plan. For or against the master state, under the master plan. Thank you, and good night.
Well, what do you think?
I'm for it. I'm tired of being kicked around.
I think it sounds wonderful.
He said it would mean full employment. That's something.
Just think what that means.
Full security. Why shouldn't the government take care of us?
I'm afraid I don't understand it very well.
Well, the way I get it, everything will be planned, and the whole country will run according to the plan.
What's wrong with that? They talk about free enterprise, private enterprise. I'm sick of listening to them. I'm going to vote for it.
Well, I am, that's for sure.
I guess I will too.
Here's good news. Workers in some mass production industries are about to be quickly moved to new locations so that under the master plan, the right man will be in the right job at the right time.
Here we are.
It's a nice home, Bob.
Yes, but I wonder how they're going to take it.
Hey, this your house?
Yeah.
Here. 2 families gonna live here. You're being transferred. See, it's all right
What do you
here.
mean? I'm not looking for another
Oh,
job.
how should I know? Don't yap at me, brother.
I don't get it.
So you don't get it.
Ah, good morning.
Ask him. He's the party man.
Hey, what is this?
Well, this is correct.
Look, I like it here. I don't want another job.
Well, it may seem a little rough at first, but in the long run, it'll be better for everybody.
But
When the truck is unloaded, you can take your personal things, and we'll move you and your family.
I live here. I work here.
Yes, I know, but that plant's been closed temporarily.
It has. You mean I've got to drive to another state right now?
Tom, where's that man? What's going on here?
We've got to move.
Move?
Haven't I got anything to say about this?
Well, what do you want to say?
Well, I've got some right.
Of course you have. Okay, come on, folks. We need your house for 2 families now, and they'll use your car, too.
What?
You'd better start now to get your things together. Okay, folks, inside.
Oh, Tom.
Now, don't be worried. You'll only be out of employment for a day or 2.
Wait a minute! You can't do this to me!
Government can't control everything without controlling me. What I can say and what I can't say. And I mean police control that tells me where I'll work, where I'll live, and all the rest of it.
We've worked so hard. Now we've lost our house, our car. I didn't even get a chance to finish the new curtains in the kitchen. Tom, what's happening to us?
They say we'll get government certificates for all private property.
Can't we go to court or go to somebody?
Say, how far does this go?
About 300 miles.
No, I mean this plan.
Oh, the plan. All the way. Everything's gonna be better under the plan.
Yeah?
Don't be like that. You're gonna like it, see?
Sure. I'm gonna like it.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, why not?
Our baby, she's never been baptized. Does that mean that...
Look, I'm not a full party member. I'm just driving this truck. I don't know what they're gonna do about churches and stuff like that. But you better button your lip. Just remember it's all part of the plan. What are you yapping about? You voted for it.
Of course, it would never happen this way. Real freedoms are eaten up a little at a time while government controls are slipped on, while the real power is collected into a few hands. Where government is not limited, no man is free. Change limited government to unlimited government, and our rights would be only what the master planners say they are. No longer the servant of the people, government would be the master of the people. That's the way to change what we have, take all power and all freedoms away from the people, and collect everything into the hands of one small group with absolute power. But, and think about this, We would have the same manpower, the same brains and muscles we had before, but without our present incentives and opportunities. And that would change something else. Tools always come from savings. Government has nothing it does not take away from the people. With unlimited government, whether they wanted to or not, force would have to be used to take away our savings, just to get the tools they must have to carry on production. It's the difference between force and freedom. Nobody in his or her right mind would willingly sacrifice freedom for the iron discipline of a regimented state. It can't allow individual freedom, such as our free choice as customers. In a free economy, we are all each other's customers. Every farmer and rancher is free to farm or not to farm, free to work for himself or for somebody else, free to save and buy his own land, his own seed, to invest in more and better tools, free to sell what he produces for a profit or a loss. Every worker in this country has the right to live and worship and work as he chooses. It's as simple and fundamental as the right of workers to work and to bargain for their wages and working conditions, the right of management workers to manage, savers to invest, and the right of all of us freely to buy and sell. All this is part of what we have. Freedom for all is the key. We have the fastest growing, most powerful union labor force on earth. We have the best management on earth. The power of our freedom reaches all of us. We'll take up more of our great problems later. But when you look around and think about what we have, don't forget for a moment that we do have more individual freedom. We're better clothed. We're more comfortable. We're further from starvation than the whip of the police state. We're far better off than the rest of the world. We have our great men and women, and we have some flannel-mouthed fools, too. We all want to live in a better world. We all want to have more. But there's no mystery about what we have or how to lose it. Let's look straight into this one. Let's talk about how to lose what we have and what that would mean to you. The United States of America. Take a good look at the map. You remember that for every square mile we have, there are 15 more in the rest of the world. For every worker we have, there are 15 more in the rest of the world. The odds against us are about 15 to 1 in land and in workforce. Only about 1 out of 5 workers in our country is on our 6 million farms and ranches. But they produce enough to feed all of us. And 4 out of every 5 workers are at work in our 4 million other work centers. Remember, altogether we have about half the productive power of the whole world. With an economy of this size, naturally we have great problems. Do you know what our biggest problems are and what you want done about them? Let's look them over. We declared our independence way back in 1776. We said officially that we take our rights from God and that we, the people, will keep the power of government in our hands. The main purpose of our limited government is to secure our rights. While we have amended our Constitution many times, we have not changed that purpose. Do you think we should? Do you think we should change the democracy of our republic for the dictatorship of a regimented state? Do you think you'd be better off with unlimited government by fear and force? In other words, should government be the servant or the master of the people? So far, you have a free choice. But do you care? Does it make a difference to you? Of course it does. The difference is so big that you have to live it to really appreciate it. The people down there aren't so different from other people around the world, but they have something that's hard to get and easy to lose, and they have it right in their own hands, the great gift of freedom. We all want a better world. We want all we can get. Why not? That's the #1 problem of every living human being in the world. And there are always only 3 things to work with. The first thing is natural resources, the land, the soil, and everything underneath it and on top of it. The second thing is manpower, our own brains and muscles. The third thing is tools. That's all there is. Nature, manpower, and tools. How you live depends on how we manage those 3 things. For instance, the American Indian have the same chance we have at our natural resources. Same soil, and underneath it the same iron ore, coal, oil, gas. All the rest of it, including all that we've used. He had some tools, but they weren't very good. And this is the important difference. He didn't improve his tools. A whole tribe of Indians couldn't produce as much food as this one farmer can today. We have improved all 3 things, and we've just started. We make a better use of our natural resources. We have improved the skills and opportunities of our manpower, and we have steadily improved and increased the productive power of our tools. It's easy to see how it works on a farm. Let's ask a farmer.
Well, as far as manpower is concerned, that's me. This is a family farm, and I'm the manager and the hired hand and everything else. I'm the guy that decided to go in for conservation, for instance, and it pays off. Well, I suppose that's working with nature. As far as tools go, well, everything from the milk pail to the farm itself. I had to save enough to buy them, and then take care of them, and then save enough to replace them when they wear out. And beyond that, I have to save enough to carry me through the bad years. When it comes to taxes, well, I'm the guy that pays them too. And it all has to come, and it does come, out of what I can get for what I produce. Well, I gotta get back to work.
It all depends on how we use our natural resources, our human energy, and on how we get and improve our tools. But we're so specialized in this country that it's hard to realize how much we depend on each other. It's a problem because we all want all we can get, and we all want to give as little as possible for it. For instance, Tom, do you like a good thick steak?
What'd you say?
Do you like a good thick steak?
Sure, I like a good steak.
Would you like steaks to be bigger and juicier and thicker and cheaper?
You can say that again.
How about it?
Now, wait a minute. I raise beef cattle.
You want as much as you can get for them, don't you?
Don't you?
How about refrigerators or farm equipment? Would you like to have better equipment all the way around and cheaper?
Well, now you're speaking my language.
Wait a minute. You cut the price of these refrigerators too much, and what happens to me?
Well, you cut the price of beef too much. What happens to me?
What about me?
What about all of us as customers? You're no different from anybody else. When you go to buy something, you want as much as you can get for as little as you can give. And when you sell something, you want to get as much for it as you can. And you're free in this country to bargain back and forth and to buy and sell, to make a profit or a loss. But keeping this freedom so it's fair both ways, that's a real problem. The next time you buy something, think about this. Maybe the best way to put it is to remember that progress in human welfare always depends on the better use of natural resources, human energy, and tools. But to keep and improve what we have to keep our individual freedom to work, to make things, to produce, our freedom to save and invest in the tools that multiply the output of our manpower. If you have some life insurance, or have a bank account, you've already helped yourself get more and better tools, so your work will be easier and much more productive. When we talk about tools, remember, we mean more than hand tools, more than power tools. We mean the buildings, the land they stand on, all the equipment, all the facilities, anything and everything that helps us get more real production and get it more easily. We have the best workmen and the best tools. We are the most productive nation, and that very fact is a problem in itself. It's as big as the world. Since 1/16 of the world produces half the world's goods and services, we're sure to have a lot of problems. Problems of getting raw materials like iron ore, tin, copper, lead, zinc, manganese, not to mention coffee, tea, rubber, silk, and countless other things. This adds up to a big international problem of trading what we have for what we need all the way around the world. Right here in the United States, we have great problems, not only of steady employment, steady production, of food, shelter, and comforts, but we have great problems of sectional and social inequalities, real problems of security and human welfare. But don't forget that the answer to these problems depends on what happens to our 10 million workplaces, where we're free to make an individual decision, to try out a new idea, a new product, to make a profit or a loss. 10 million places with freedom of choice, so successful that we double our standard of living every generation. We have the problem of keeping what we have and improving it, or giving some small group an unlimited power and letting them tell us where and how we can live, work, speak, or worship. To protect us, we have the secret ballot. Nobody can look over your shoulder when you vote. When you step behind that curtain and write out your own personal choice, you're alone with your conscience and your God. If you have any doubt about how good all this is, think of the rest of the world. Look back at what we have from over there. Take Ellis Island, for example. Why do you think so many millions and millions of people are trying so desperately to get over here? They'd trade places with us right now. We're free to leave, but some countries have bars and iron curtains just to keep their citizens where they are. That tells us something about this country and other countries. We have great problems. The problem of war and the problem of peace. The problem of keeping and improving what we have. Some people would like to change what we have. How do you feel about the purpose of our government? Do you want limited government by law and government with our consent? Government which preserves our real freedoms? Or do you want some other kind of government? Even unlimited total government where no man is free? Men made what we have. Men can change or destroy it. The way we meet our problems today may in the not too distant future decide between a dictatorship or a democracy. It's in our hands. We still have a free choice. And while we still have a free choice, let's talk about it and what it means to you.
Programs is being presented to help all of us understand better our advantage, our American way of life.
For today's topic, let's join now a group of young people at the National Education Program Workshop, Arkansas. At the classroom lectern is Dr. Clifton L. Gaines, Jr., noted young historian.
We have discussed socialism and communism in our last two classroom sessions. Now, founder and director of the National Education Program says that if each generation of Americans will develop a clear understanding of our American system of capitalism, how it works, and the comparative advantages it produces for all citizens, then neither socialism nor communism ever will become established in America. So let's see if we can develop a better understanding of capitalism. But first, who will define for us the term capital? That is, in its economic sense. All right, Joan, suppose you define it for us.
Well, money. Capital's money.
That's right, but only partially right. Let me demonstrate. Here is a dime. Suppose I take this dime and buy some ceramic clay. Now then, my money, which is capital, has been converted into raw material, which it logically follows must also be capital. I mold this clay into a child's toy animal. You would regard the energy expended by me as capital. Now, when I finish, I bake this clay toy in my oven at home. This oven, or any machine I might use in achieving the final product, must also be regarded as capital. Then I add the final touch and sell this toy for 39 cents, or at least I try to. And if I should succeed, I take the 39 cents, reinvest it in clay, and start the cycle again, employing again all the forms which capital may take, as raw materials, as energy, as machine, and so on. Capital, in a few words, is money at work producing things. And since I am in charge of the cycle, I'm a capitalist. Yes?
Well, what if you have to borrow that money like so many businesses do to start that cycle?
Then that makes the lender a capitalist too, since it is his money at work producing something, and he becomes a part of the cycle. Capitalism is a system in which economic wealth or capital is used to produce goods for sale, or in other words, to produce new wealth.
But Professor Gaines, aren't there different kinds of capitalism?
Yes, there are, and the differences can be vitally important. State capitalism is often the first stage of socialism. We might say that state capitalism exists when the government achieves a combination of ownership and control in business and industry large enough to permit it to dominate the nation's economy. And there are forms of capitalism in which production and distribution are governed by cartels or monopolies, fixing prices and permitting no competition. This form existed in many European countries in the time of Karl Marx and during this century, before socialism or communism gained control. Yes, John, an important fact that we must emphasize is that American capitalism is quite unique. There never has been a system quite like it in all history. So let's examine the structure of American capitalism. There are three great pillars. The first and foremost of these is, who can tell us? All right, Louise.
Isn't it the principle of private ownership of property?
Yes, it is. This principle of private ownership is undoubtedly the most fundamental element in the structure of American capitalism. Consider, for instance, home ownership, which is a bright American goal for most of our people. The desire to own one's own home, one's own property, provides a real incentive for almost all Americans to bring out their most productive efforts. In the American system, what's yours is yours. What you do with it is your business. You can squander it away, or you can work harder and produce more and have more. The principle of the private ownership of property is the number one target of the socialist and communist. They believe in government ownership and control. Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto wrote, "The theory of the communist may be summed up in a single sentence: abolition of private property." So private property is the foremost pillar supporting the American system and our personal freedom. That brings us to the second great pillar. Who can tell us what it is? All right, Mary.
The profit motive.
Yes, indeed. This is the stimulus that brings private ownership to life and expands its usefulness to society as a whole. In one sense, Profit is property. When an individual produces more than the basic living requirements for himself and his family, the surplus is profit, which he can use as he sees fit. An automobile is not a basic requirement for survival, nor is a television set. Yet most American families want them and have them, because all normal human beings want more than the bare necessities of existence. The capitalistic principle of private ownership gives them the privilege of earning and keeping enough wealth beyond their food and shelter requirements to afford to buy the other things they want.
But Professor Gaines, what about the individual who doesn't produce a product of his own? What I mean is, what about the employee, the worker?
Well, you remember we said that energy is capital. Ability is capital. When we as employees work for someone else, we're not selling our time, we're selling our services, our ability. When we get paid, if we save a little of our income, we're profiting. And we can become employers if we wish and if we can develop management capabilities. Many of America's greatest industrialists were employees who saved and developed their capabilities. If we do not develop into employers, we still can become producers or capitalists by investing our surplus, our savings, in some enterprise which is producing something. 18 million ordinary Americans own stock in businesses and industries. If I borrowed money from you to make my clay toys, you would become producers, since your capital would help produce my toys. The business world is full of actual examples. General Motors, for instance, is just a group of people who with their dimes and dollars are producing products for sale. There are more than 500,000 stockholders with their savings invested in General Motors. And why do they invest their dimes and dollars? They want to make a profit. It is a normal, wholesome motivation.
Dr. Gaines, I once heard a clergyman say that the profit motive is not a good motive.
Do you agree with him? I'm sure the clergyman wasn't a socialist or communist, but that happens to be what the socialists and communists say about the profit motive. And yet, most converts to socialism and communism joined up because of the promise of personal benefit or profit. Would a clergyman be able to fill his church if he told prospective members that there is no personal reward or profit in giving one's life to God? How many of you students study at dinner each evening instead of having the momentary pleasure of some favorite pastime? I think you would want to say that study can be work. What motivates you then? A desire for learning, a desire perhaps for good grades, but with the belief that in the end you will render a more valuable service and receive more for it. If you didn't hope to profit, you wouldn't study. What I'm trying to say is that the profit motive is active in most human behavior. That's important to remember. And now to the third of the three great pillars in American capitalism. All right, Gary.
The open market.
Yes, the open competitive market, where anyone can offer his wares for sale at whatever price he can get, is a benefit not only to business and industry, but to the individual as well. Let's go back to our toy animal illustration. Let's suppose that we develop an ability to make attractive little ceramic toys, and that children all the nation want these toys. We expand our enterprise, probably on borrowed money, and begin making profit. Another toy manufacturer, seeing our ceramic toys cutting into his sales and profit, does some research and finds that he can make an unbreakable toy very much like ours and sell it for less money than we're getting, at the same time making a profit. He can do this because we have a free, competitive market in America, challenging achievement. The consumer or buyer gains when we have this constant competition in the marketplace. The best products at the lowest cost emerge. Have you ever seen one of the early automobiles manufactured in America? It was really something to behold. When it was manufactured, only a few wealthy people could own an automobile. And even for them, it was likely to break down on any 10-mile trip. Today, there are more automobiles in America than there are families, and almost every family owns one. Competition, the free market, brought this about. Henry Ford was determined to outstrip other manufacturers. He went after the mass market with his low-price Model T. produced with his remarkable mass production techniques. He won the low-price market, but not for long. Others competed, and competed so well that the product continued constantly to improve. What competition in the free market has done in the production of automobiles, it has done for thousands of other things. With private ownership of property, the profit motive, and the competitive free market, American capitalism produces more wealth than the next 10 nations all combined. You and I benefit tremendously because of our great productive system, American capitalism. Our individual efforts bring us rewards higher than those realized by any people on the earth. With one day's wages, an American, for example, can buy this big supply of food. An Englishman's daily wage, by contrast, will buy only this much, and a Russian's just this much. So let's remember these pillars of freedom and progress when we hear or see the socialist or the communist trying openly or secretly to undermine them. These factors can be destroyed through subversion or through our own short-sightedness or apathy in defending them. Surely all of us can feel gratitude and pride toward American capitalism. Its record of improving human welfare is unmatched in all history. Next week, we shall examine American capitalism's widespread distribution of wealth. Until then, class dismissed.
The American Adventure Series is a production of the National Education Program, Searcy, Arkansas. Dr. George S. Benson, director. Dr. Clifton L. Gaines, Jr. was our instructor. This is a continuing series based on the unique political and economic system which has made America great. Watch for the next presentation of The American Adventure.